Welcome to the interview series where we're highlighting expert communication in small business. And this morning we're sitting here in Flight Path Theatre, which is the home of Inner West Drama, which began in 2013. And this morning I have another special guest, which is the co-owner of Inner West Drama, Kate. Kate, thanks for joining us this morning and making time.
Thanks for having me.
I'm always fascinated how people get to where they are in life. If I met Kate in high school, like when she was 15, what was she like?
I wonder how much I would have liked her, actually. No, I think by 15 I had started to work out who I was. I think as a younger child I was that classic, very loud, rather assertive.
Very loud.
Assertive child. I am the youngest of 5 kids, so I always
Wow.
had to sort of make myself known in any situation. So by 15 I was passionate. At 15 I changed high schools because I was so passionate about drama that I followed kind of a drama teacher to a particular high school. And
Okay.
I found a really great bunch of friends who were creative and academic as well. So we had a really fun time, but everyone was quite ambitious and
Even at that young age?
yeah, not in a like a cutthroat kind of way, but just in a let's make the most. It was cool to make the most of who we were and what we wanted to do.
Okay. Well, that probably answers my second question, is that when did you know that theatre and performing was for you?
4, I was in my first play.
4? You were in a play at 4?
The Wizard of Oz. I was a munchkin. I think Mum probably fairly early on realised that I was the loudest, most precocious of our,
Of the
my
5?
siblings, and that was just something that I loved. I can't remember deciding it. I can't ever remember discovering it because I felt like it was just always there.
Right, okay, so it wasn't a conscious choice that you, and it's not something that you stumbled into.
No.
It was almost like an innate thing that you were meant to be.
I feel like I
in this
had
direction.
3 choices. At some point when I thought about careers, I thought, okay, I could be a barrister, I could be a speech pathologist, or I could be an actor.
Wow.
Where the other 2 came from, and I guess it makes sense in terms of, barristers are performers for sure.
Yeah.
And, the speechy, like I've always been very interested in language and communication and empowering people through voice, I suppose. So, yeah, I guess it's not too disconnected.
What does communication look like to you? Expert communication or good communication?
I think it's always about tailoring it to each individual and each individual situation. I think sometimes what happens is we go, okay, yeah, I told them that, but I communicated that in a way that I'm used to communicating in. But I realise as I go on in life, just in personal relationships, in work relationships, that people receive information in very different ways. And I think that sometimes it's important to stop and clarify whether the information has been communicated clearly. Yes. Just because I feel like I've delivered it doesn't mean it's been received. So I think that's what I'm learning, that we all learn in such different ways. And sometimes I think the other thing that happens in my work is that I love people, and it's all very warm and fuzzy and about stories and about, chatting. And then there's just all the boring business stuff that you have to lock in that needs to be clearly communicated. I think that's the stuff that I'm really appreciative to have Siobhan as my business partner, so that we balance each other with the business communication, which is such a different, it just has such a different flavour than other kinds of communication in your life. And setting super clear expectations from the outset.
Different flavour?
Well, the way I would communicate with my 3 teenage children, or my older family members, or my friends, is very different from the kinds of communication that I need to have with people who are hiring the theatre, for example. And just the level of expectation and making sure everything's very clear from the beginning, so that no one is surprised or disappointed or caught off guard. I think that is helpful in terms of, clear communication.
Wow, no one is surprised or disappointed. That's fantastic. What life lessons have you learned from teaching and playing characters?
One of my favourite things about being an actor, I think, is the amount of compassion and empathy for people that it fosters. Because I've lived a relatively privileged life. I've certainly had bumps along the way. But when I can step into the shoes of someone else who has, lived a very different life from myself, I think it's really helpful as a human being to just see things from other people's perspectives. So I think in terms of life lessons, that would probably be the most profound for me, that it's just a reminding me. I might just go, well, this is how something is, but it's not. It's, we are all so different, and we all approach the world through our own experience, and that can have been devastating or nourishing or surprising, and I think it's really easy to judge someone without knowing their very individual, colourful background. And I think that for me, that's probably the biggest life lesson.
What makes you so passionate about Inner West drama?
I feel humbled and delighted to be able to use the skills that I learnt at acting school in a community-based positive setting. I think there are lots of situations where people feel a little bit disempowered because of a lack of confidence or a lack of knowledge of communication skills. And I think that the joy and the vulnerability and the connections that we see in the room day after day, whether it's the 5-year-olds or the 95-year-olds, the community is what keeps us going. The community is what reassures us every single time we start a new course that this organisation that we have established is bigger than we are. It's bigger than an acting class. It's bigger than the walls of the space. And I think that's what, no matter how tired or busy or stressed we get, that's the heart of it. People are coming because they feel heard and seen, and the friendships, the connections, the hopefully the safe space where people can truly just let go, not feel judged, play like children. We have so many aspects of our lives where we are taught to think things through and make sure we're articulate and don't get things wrong and don't look silly. Don't let anyone see your weaknesses. And what we're hoping to achieve at Inner West Drama is the opposite of all those things. Fall over, fail, be raw, be messy, be silly, trust your instincts. And
trust your instincts.
That's what makes me so passionate about it. And seeing people walk in on the first night quite terrified, wanting to run away, and then 10 weeks later they perform on stage with the ensemble, and there's nothing like that.
Well, that's a transformation of a person, really. Someone's self-esteem and confidence.
Yeah.
And you can't. That's priceless. Kate, one final question. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to get into the arts?
For many, many years after I went and did my Bachelor of Performing Arts, my dad, who was a very sensible doctor, every year he'd go, "Have you enrolled in a dip ed yet, Kate?" That probably lasted 2 decades. And even though I love teaching in certain circumstances, I guess I'm saying this because there are lots of people who don't choose the arts because they're really hard and they're insecure. And it's unstable, and it takes I think sometimes we think artists are these flaky kind of characters, but it takes a real inner strength to be able to live in this world where there's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of disappointment, and you have to keep, you're basically going for a job interview sometimes 3 times a day, if not 3 times a month. but you're continually sort of putting yourself on the line. And I think in that sense, you do have to have quite a solid sense of self. And the people who sort of survive happily as artists, I think, do have to keep coming back and just saying, where does my sense of self come from? Where does my self-worth come from? Is if it's all about the paid employment, then potentially the arts is not going to be the right place for you. But if, anyone who comes to me and says, I'm thinking of doing a drama course, I think no matter what you end up doing in your life, it's so valuable. We were talking before about empathy and compassion. I think just getting to know yourself. I think clear communication in anything, whether it's ordering a coffee or trying to explain to someone, directions or what you want when you're ordering in your kitchen, whatever. The clearer you can be in your communication, and the more contact you can make, whether it's really good eye contact or just have that sense of being able to breathe and sit in a space. I just think I could probably go on for the next hour about the value of doing a drama course at any level. If you're passionate about performing, there are so many ways you can do it. If you want to try and make a career out of it, I would always encourage people to give it a go, because why not? But there are so many wonderful community spaces and amateur theatre groups that you can get equal amount of pleasure and joy from, without it having to sort of, sometimes when it becomes your career, it can take a little bit of the joy out of it, actually.
That's
Does
incredible.
That answer your question?
It does answer your question, well, because the everyday person that does that drama class, it transforms them. It really does. It brings people out of their shells, which is what you've just said. Strengthens up their inner self, and that gives them more confidence. And you really can't. I mean, to walk down the street with, your shoulders back and your head up, truly transforms lives. So it's been an absolute pleasure being part of Inner West Drama, and thank you so much for finding the time today to talk to us.
Pleasure.
It's been absolutely incredible. Thank you, Kate.
Pleasure. Thanks, Gavin.